The heavy doors of the Providence Municipal Court slammed shut at 9 a.m., their echo bouncing off the high ceilings. The courtroom, usually quiet and orderly, was tense with anticipation. Judge Frank Caprio adjusted his glasses, his eyes sweeping over the crowded room. Today's case was different. It was not just a matter of law. It was a test of power, privilege, and the limits of justice. Standing in the center of the courtroom was Police Chief Thomas Cole's son, a young man who had long believed himself untouchable. He had relied on his father's influence for years, thinking it would shield him from any consequences. Today, however, he would confront a force far greater than personal power, the law itself. The audience was silent. Court reporters poised their pens, cameras clicked in readiness, and the accused stood confidently, though unease flickered briefly in his eyes. Judge Caprio leaned slightly forward, a small nod to signal the beginning of proceedings. The room seemed to hold its breath. "Mr. Cole," Judge Caprio began, his voice calm but authoritative. "This courtroom is not a place where any individual stands above the law. Not wealth, not status, not family. Only justice is supreme here." The young man sneered, glancing at his father, who sat stoically in the front row. "Justice?" he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "My father runs this city. You can't touch me." Caprio's eyes narrowed. "Running a city does not grant immunity from the law. No one, not even your father, can intervene here. Your actions are real, and the consequences will be real as well." The courtroom fell silent. The young man had always relied on his father's power. Now, he realized that authority had no weight here. He was not just facing a judge. He was facing the embodiment of the law, impartial and immovable. The young man's voice rose sharply. "But my father protects me! He's in charge! No one can touch me!" The audience flinched at the audacity. Even some of the seasoned attorneys exchanged uneasy glances. Thomas Cole, however, remained silent. His calm presence radiated authority far beyond the courtroom walls. The silence stretched, pressing down on the young man like a physical weight. Caprio leaned slightly forward. "This court answers only to the law. Power and privilege have no place in this room. Today, the law will speak, and your father cannot intervene." A flicker of doubt passed across the young man's face. For the first time, he realized that the courtroom could not be bullied, manipulated, or bought. Caprio opened the case file, the pages rustling like whispers of truth. He laid out the evidence with deliberate precision. The attack on the elderly veteran, the threats in public spaces, the reckless disregard for law and order. Every act was documented, irrefutable. "You will face the consequences of your actions," Caprio said, his voice firm. "This courtroom does not favor the powerful. No one, not even your father, can shield you here. The law is impartial, and today it speaks against you." Fear replaced arrogance in the young man's eyes. For the first time, he truly understood the weight of his actions. Thomas Cole finally spoke, his tone calm yet piercing. "Son, your actions have consequences. My position as your father does not grant you immunity. Today, I do not protect you. Today, you must face the truth." The young man's confidence faltered. He had expected loyalty, interference, or at least sympathy, but his father's calm condemnation struck harder than any court verdict could. "You may think this is about you," Caprio said, scanning the room. "It is not. It is about fairness. It is about showing every citizen that the law applies equally to all." The young man's defiance wavered, and for the first time, he realized that manipulation would get him nowhere. His breathing quickened. He glanced at his father, desperate for some sign of reprieve, but Thomas Cole's expression remained firm, almost mournful. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him. Caprio's voice cut through the tension. "You may have thought yourself untouchable. You may have believed your father's power would protect you. But here, the law is the ultimate authority. Only it decides, and today, it decides against you." A bead of sweat rolled down the young man's temple. His arrogance, once so formidable, was beginning to crumble under the crushing weight of truth. Judge Caprio stepped closer, his tone deliberate and commanding. This is your choice. Admit your mistakes and accept the consequences, or cling to arrogance and face a harsher judgment. The law bends for no one. The young man's fists clenched. Pride battled fear. He had always been told that power equals protection, but the courtroom had stripped him of that illusion. "Do you understand?" Caprio asked, his voice unyielding. "No one, no father, no wealth, no title, can change this outcome. You are alone in facing your actions." The young man lowered his gaze. A small, reluctant nod betrayed the first spark of understanding. Thomas Cole leaned slightly forward. "This is the hardest lesson I've ever had to teach you. I cannot allow family loyalty or power to shield you from the truth. You must learn responsibility here, now, in front of everyone." The courtroom watched in silence. The young man's eyes darted between Caprio and his father. Humiliation, fear, and realization collided, leaving no room for arrogance. Caprio continued. "Justice is not optional. It is not negotiable. Today, your choices meet their consequences, and the law will be applied fairly, without bias or exception."
The young man's shoulders slumped. The fire of defiance dimmed, replaced by the heavy weight of understanding. Caprio's eyes held him in place, unwavering and resolute. "Look around you," Caprio said, addressing the courtroom. "Every person here represents the consequences of choices. You cannot rewrite the past. You cannot bargain with justice. Your only path is to accept it." The young man's lips trembled. He felt powerless in a way he had never imagined. Not the streets, not his father, not his own bravado could save him now. Caprio paused, allowing the tension to saturate the courtroom. Everyone waited, silent and anxious. Thomas Cole, the father, remained stoic, but his eyes betrayed sorrow and resolve. "You have reached the moment of reckoning," Caprio said. "The law will speak. Your father's influence ends here. Your actions speak for themselves. This is justice, and it is absolute." The young man lowered his gaze. Arrogance had abandoned him. Only the reality of his deeds and the inevitability of consequence remained. Caprio opened the file one last time, preparing to announce the sentence. The courtroom's silence pressed in, heavy and expectant. The time for defiance had ended. Justice was about to speak.